Good afternoon, this is Mark at the Wicked Edge Expert Corner Group, and we're talking about whetstones. I want to talk about Naniwa stones now. Naniwa stones are the maker of the Chaucera stones. Chaucera whetstones have been around a very long time. That is one of the first whetstones offered by Wicked Edge when Wicked Edge offered whetstones, the Chaucera. And I love them, and they're great whetstones. I want to say that right up front. I love Chauceras and I love Shapton Glass or the Rockstar. Those are my two favorites. If I had to settle for one or the other, it would be hard for me to choose one or the other. But if I had to choose out of all the whetstones that I have, it would be one or the other. I don't know which one, but one or the other. So the Naniwas have the Chauceras. They've been around a long time. The Chauceras are made for a domestic Japanese market. These are all Japanese whetstones. They're manufactured for the Japanese domestic market. They're manufactured for the U.S. domestic market. They're manufactured for the international market. And there's a lot of eras of whetstones around, just like there's a lot of ages of Wicked Edge sharpeners around. So there's a lot of Chauceras, and that doesn't mean that they're not original, but because there's a lot, there's also in whetstones, because it's ceramic in a color, so there are counterfeits. So buy your whetstones from legitimate people, or buy legitimate whetstones yourself from a dealer and cut them and make them. But I had to put that in there because there are a lot of, you have Gritomatic, you have Hapstone, different known dealers that we have come to trust because they are cutting and using the legitimate stones. But within the stones, then I want you to know there's new stones and old stones, but they're all the same. Just like the Shapton had the glass to start with, then they had the laminated, then they went to the Rockstar. Chaucera's done the same thing. And there's different names on the spelling of the Chaucera. Now the newest is called the Chaucera Professional as compared to just Chaucera. So we have the Chaucera stones, and they were originally marketed way 10, 15 years ago as a soak stone, that they had to be soaked before you used it. And we learned over time using them that we used them in a spritz manner, splash and go, spraying water on them as we needed to use them, that they absorbed and then they got softer and wet just like they did when we soaked them. So we learned we could use them spritz and go. So they became more desirable to use because soaking requires a process in front and some forethought and planning. So you have to plan the soak and then you use it, and then if you want to go to another grit, then you have to soak that. So it becomes time consuming. It becomes a labor of love. It becomes tedious. Working with whetstones is a labor of love, sharpening your knives. But it's tradition. Sharpening Japanese chef knives with Japanese whetstones, to me, they go together. It's tradition. So the Naniwas, the Chaucera is, to me, the top of the line. If you had to get one sharpening stone, again, it's either going to be a Naniwa Chaucera or a Shapton, and you'll be set. There's a lot of them that work to do other things very well. There's Sohiras that are a stone that's known for matte finish. When you're sharpening sushi knives that have that cloudy matte finish, you want the kind of stone that's going to make that finish and not make it mirror. So there's different kinds of whetstones, but just for sharpening, from all ranges up to the hardest steels that I've sharpened, at 40, the Sohiras and the Shaptons work well. Now in the Naniwas, that makes the Choceras, they do have a super series. They've changed the names recently and I haven't kept up with them and I didn't look before I started, but there's an S2 and an S1. Those are the same whetstone, just one is double thick. That is a softer stone, quicker to be consumed, dishes quicker, muddier to work with than the Choceras. And they don't last as long, and they're not as hard, and they don't do a good job. But they do what they do very well, and they work very well when used on the steel that they pair with. So they're not a substandard stone, they're just a different stone with a different quality that's used for different steels in different places. I don't know that yet, I'm trying to learn that. I have the S2 here, and I have the Choceras, and I'm trying to learn as I sharpen the different knives in my collection made of the different hardnesses. So it's a study in process. But I just want you to know that in the Naniwa there are other series. There's the biscuit and the gum and the lobster, and I think there's one called the natural. There are different series in the Naniwa series that have different qualities, just like the Shaptons. That's about all I'm going to say about them because I could go on and on forever. Thank you.